Yo, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check. Yo, yo. Sunk in the grass of an empty lot on a spring Saturday, I split the stems of milkweed and thought about ants and peach pits and death where the world went when I closed my eyes. I must have lain long in the grass, for the shadows that was in front of me when I left the house had disappeared when I went back. I entered the house as the house was bursting with an uneasy quiet. Then I heard my mother singing something about trains in Arkansas. She came in the back door with some folded yellow curtains, which she piled on the kitchen table. I sat down on the floor to listen to the song's story and noticed how strangely she was behaving. She still had her hat on and her shoes were dusty as though she had been walking in deep dirt. She put on some water to boil and then swept the porch. Then she hauled out the curtain stretcher, but instead of putting the damp curtains on it, she swept the porch again. All the time singing about trains in Arkansas. When she finished, I went on to look for Frida. I found her upstairs, lying on her bed, crying and tired. Whimpering cry that follows the first wailing, mostly gasps and shudderings. I lay on the bed and looked at the tiny bunches of wild roses sprinkled over her dress. Many washings had faded their color and dimmed her outlines. What happened to Frida? She lifted a swollen face from the crook on her arm, shuddering still. She sat up, letting her thin leg dangle over the bedside. I knelt on the bed and picked up the hem of my dress to wipe her running nose. She never liked wiping noses on clothes, but this time she let me. It was the way Mama did with her apron. Did you get a whooping? She shook her head no. Then why are you crying? Because. Because what? Mr. Henry. What'd he do? Daddy beat him up. What for? The Magnaline? Did he find out about Magnaline? No. Well, then what? Come on, Freda. How come I can't know? He picked at me. He picked at you? You mean like Soaphead Church, sort of? He showed his privates at you? No, he touched me. Where? Here and here. She pointed to the tiny breast that had like two fallen acorns scattered a few faded rose leaves on her dress. Really? How did it feel? Oh, Claudia, she sounded put out. I wasn't asking the right questions. I didn't feel like anything. But it supposed to feel good? I mean, Freda sucked her teeth. What'd he do? Just walked up and pinched them. She sighed. First he, and how pretty I was. Then he grabbed my arm and touched me. Where was Mama and Daddy? Over at the garden weeding. What'd you say when he did it? Nothing. I just ran out the kitchen and went to the garden. Mama said we was never to cross the tracks by ourselves. Well, what you do? Sat there and let him pinch you? I looked at my chest. I don't have nothing to pinch. I'm never going to have nothing. Oh, Claudia, you're jealous of everything. You want him too. No, I just get tired of having everything last. You do not. What about scarlet fever? You had that first. Yes, but it didn't last. Anyway, what happened at the garden? I told Mama, she told Daddy. We all come home and he was gone. So we waited for him, and when Daddy saw him come up the porch, he threw our old tricycle at his head and knocked him off the porch. Did he die? No, he got up and started singing, Nearer my God to thee. Then Mama hit him with a broom and told him to keep the Lord's name out of his mouth, but he wouldn't stop. And Daddy was cussing and everybody was screaming. Oh, shoot. I always miss stuff. And Miss Bud Buford came running out with his gun, and Mama told him to go somewhere and sit down. And Daddy said, No, give him the gun. And Mr. Buford did. And Mama screamed, and Mr. Henry shut up and started running. And Daddy shot at him, and Mr. Henry jumped out of his shoes and kept on running in his socks. Then Rosemary came and said that Daddy was going to jail. I hit her real hard, real hard. Is that when Mama whipped you? She didn't whip me. I told you. Then why you crying? Miss Doonian came in after everybody was quiet and Mama and Daddy was fussing about who let Mr. Henry in anyway. She said that Mama should take me to the doctor because I might be ruined, and Mama started screaming all over again. At you? No, at Miss Doonian. Why were you crying? I don't want to be ruined. What's ruined? You know, like the Magnaline. She's ruined, Mama said. So the tears came back. An image of Frida, big and fat, came to mind. Her thin legs swollen, her face surrounded by layers of rogue skin. I too began to feel tears. But Frida, you could exercise and not eat, she shrugged. Besides, what about China and Poland? They're ruined too, they aren't they? And they aren't fat. That's because they drink whiskey, Mama says. Whiskey ate them up. You could drink whiskey. Where would I get whiskey? We thought about this. Nobody would sell it to us. We had no money anyway. There was never any in our house. Who would have some? Priscilla, I said. Her father's always drunk. She can get us some. You think so? Sure. Charlie's always drunk. Let's go ask her. We don't have to tell her what it's for. Now? Sure, now. What'd we tell Mama? Nothing. Let's just go out the back, one at a time, so she won't notice. Okay, you go first, Claudia. We opened the fence gate at the bottom of the backyard and ran down the alley. Priscilla lived on the other side of Broadway. We had never been in her house, but we knew where it was. A two-story gray building that had been a store downstairs and an apartment upstairs. Nobody answered our knock on the front door, so we walked around to the side door. As we approached, we heard radio music and looked to see where it came from. Above us was the second story porch, lined with the slanting rotting tails, and sitting on the porch was the Magnaline herself. I just don't think I'm saying that right. My the Maginot. Okay. We stared up and automatically reached up for the other. We stared up and automatically reached for the other hand. A mountain of flesh she lay rather than sat in a rocking chair. She had no shoes on and each foot was poked between a railing. Tiny baby toes at the tip of the puffy feet, swollen ankles smothered and tightened the skin, massive legs like tree stumps parted wide at the knees, over which spread two rows of soft flabby inner thigh that kissed each other deep in the shade of her dress and closed. A dark brown rooted root beer bottle, like a burned limp, grew out of her dimpled hand. She looked at us down the porch railing and emitted a low, long belch. Her eyes were as clean as rain, and again I remembered the waterfall. Neither of us could speak. Both of us imagined we were seeing what was to become of Frida. The Maginot. Bruh. The Maginot Line smiled at us. You all looking for somebody? I had to pull my tongue from the roof of my mouth to say, Priscilla, she live here? Uh-huh. She ain't here now. She gone to mama's work to her mama's workplace to get the wash. Yes, ma'am. She coming back? Uh-huh. She gotta hang up the clothes before the sun goes down. Oh, you can wait for her. Want to come up here and wait? We exchanged glances. I looked back at the broad cinnamon roads met in the shadow of her dress. Frida said, No, ma'am. Well, the Maginot Line seemed interested in our problem. You can go to her mama's workplace, but it's way over by the lake. Where by the lake? That big white house with the wheelbarrow full of flowers. It was a house that we knew, having admired the large white wheelbarrow tilted down on spoked wheels and planted with seasonal flowers. Ain't that too far for you all to go walking? Frida scratched her knee. Why don't you wait for her? You can come up here. You want some pop? Those rain soaked eyes lit up, and her smile was full, not like that pension holding back smile of other grown ups. I moved to go up the stairs, but Frida said, No, ma'am, we ain't allowed. I was amazed at her courage and frightened of her sassiness. The smile of Maginot Line slipped. Ain't allowed. Noam, ain't allowed to what? Go in your house. Is that right? The waterfalls were still. How come? My mama said so. My mama said you ruined. The waterfalls began to run again. She put the root beer bottle to her lips and drank it empty. With the graceful movement of her wrist, a gesture so quick and small we never really saw it, only remember it afterward. She tossed the bottle over the rail at us. It split at our feet and shards of brown grass dappled our legs before we could jump back. The Magi Lion put a fat hand on the folds of her stomach and laughed. At first, just a deep humming with her mouth closed. Then a larger, warmer sound. Laughter, at once beautiful and frightening. She let her head tilt sideways, closed her eyes, and shook her massive trunk, letting the daughter fall, laugh, letting the laughter fall like a wash of red leaves all around us. Scraps of curls in the laughter followed us as we ran. Our breath gave out at the same time our legs did. After we rested against a tree, our heads on the crossed forearms, I said, "Let's go home." Frida was still angry, fighting. She believed for her life. Now, no, we gotta go get it now. We can't go all the way to the lake. Yes, we can. Come on, Mama gonna get us. No, she ain't. Besides, she can't do nothing but whip us. That was true. She wouldn't kill us or laugh a terrible laugh at us, or throw a bottle at us. We walked down tree lined streets of soft gray houses, leaning like tired ladies. The streets changed, houses looking more sturdy. Their paint was newer, porch posts straighter, yards deeper. Then came brick houses set well back from the street, fronted by yards edged in shrubbery, clipped into smooth cones and balls of velvet green. The lakefront houses were the loveliest. Garden furniture, ornaments, windows like shiny eyeglasses, and no signs of life. The backyards of these houses fell away in green slopes down to a strip of sand, then the blue Lake Erie lapping all the way up to Canada. The orange patch sky of the steel mill section never reached this part of town. This sky was always blue. We reached Lakeshore Park, a city park laid out with rosebuds, fountains, bowling greens, picnic tables. It was empty now, but sweetly expectant of clean, white, well behaved children and parents who would pay their above the lake in summer before half running, half stumbling down the slope to the welcoming water. Black people were not allowed in the park, and so it filled our dreams. Right before the entrance to the park was a large white house with a wheelbarrow full of flowers. Short crocus blades sheathed the purple and white hearts that so wished to be first. They entered the chill and rain of early spring. The walkway was flagged in calculated disorder, hiding the cunning symmetry. Only fear of discovery and the knowledge that we did not belong kept us from loitering. We circled the proud house and went to the back. There on the tiny rail stoop sat Priscilla in a light red sweater and a blue cotton dress. A little wagon was parked near her. She seemed glad to see us. Hi. Hi. What are y'all doing here? She was smiling, and since it was a rare thing to see on her, I was surprised at the pleasure it gave me. We're looking for you. Who told you I was here? The Maginot Line. What is that? The big fat lady? She lives over you? Oh, you mean Miss Marie. Her name is Miss Marie. Well, everyone calls her Miss Magnaline. Ain't you scared? Scared of what? The Maginot Line? Priscilla looked genuinely puzzled. What for? Your mama let you go in her house and eat out her plates? She don't know I go. Miss Marie is nice. They all nice. Oh yeah, I said she tried to kill us. Who, Miss Marie? She don't bother nobody. Then how come your mama don't let you go in her house if she's so nice? I don't know. She say she's bad, but they ain't bad. They give me stuff all the time. What stuff? Oh, lots of stuff. Pretty dresses and shoes. I got more shoes than I ever wear, and jewelry and candy and money. They take me to the movies. And once we went to the carnival. China gonna take me to Cleveland to see the square. Poland gonna take me to Chicago to see the loop. We going everywhere together. You lying? You don't have no pretty dresses. I do too. Oh, come on, Priscilla. What you telling all that junk for? Frida asked. It ain't junk. Priscilla stood up ready to defend her words when the door opened. Miss Breelove stuck her head out the door and said, "What's going on here, Priscilla? Who are these children?" "That's Frida and Claude, Miss Breelove. Whose girls are you?" She came all the way out on the stoop. She looked nicer than I had ever seen her, in her white uniform and her hair in a small pompadour. "Miss McTeer's girls, ma'am." "Oh, yes? Live over on 21st Street." "Yes, ma'am." "What are you doing way over here?" "Just walking. We came to see Priscilla." "Well, you better get on back. You can walk with Priscilla. Come on in while I get the wash." We stepped into the kitchen, a large, spacious room. Miss Breelove's skin glowed like taffeta in the reflection of white porcelain, white woodwork, polished cabinets, and brilliant copperware. Odors of meat, vegetables, and something freshly baked mixed with the scent of Fell's naphtha. "I'm gonna get the wash. You all stand stock still right there and don't mess up nothing." She disappeared around behind a white swinging door, and we could hear the uneven flap of her footsteps as she descended into the basement. Another door opened, and in walked a little girl, smaller and younger than all of us. She wore a pink sunback dress and a pink fluffy bedroom slippers with two bunny ears pointed up from the tips. She wore a pink sunblack dress. Her hair was corn yellow and bound in a thick ribbon. When she saw us, fear danced across her face for a second. She looked anxious around the kitchen. "Where's Polly?" she asked. A familiar violence rose in me. Her calling Miss Breelove Polly, when even Priscilla called her mother Miss Breelove, seemed reason enough to scratch her. "She's downstairs," I said. "Polly," she called. "Look," Frida whispered. "Look at that." On the counter near the stove, on a slivery pan, was a deep dish berry cobbler, the purple juice bursting here and there through the crust. We moved closer. "It's still hot," Frida said. Priscilla stretched her hand to touch the pan slightly to see if it was hot. "Polly, come here," the little girl called again. It may have been nervousness, awkwardness, but the pan tilted under Priscilla's finger and fell to the floor, splattering blackish blueberries everywhere. Most of the juice spattered on Priscilla's legs, and the burns must have been painful, for she cried out and began hopping about just as Miss Breelove entered with a tightly packed laundry bag. In one gallop, she was on Priscilla and with the back of her hand knocking her to the floor. Priscilla slid in the pie juice, one leg folding under Miss Breelove, yanked her up by the arm, slapped her again, and in a voice thin with anger, abused Priscilla directly, and Frida and me by implication. "Crazy fool, my floor, mess. Look what you work. Get on out. Now that crazy, my floor, my floor, my floor." Her words were hotter and darker than the smoking berries, and we backed away in dread. The little girl in pink started to cry. Miss Breelove turned to her. "Hush, baby, hush. Come here. Oh, Lord, look at your dress. Don't cry no more. Polly will change it." She went to the sink, turned the tap of water on a fresh towel over her shoulder. She spit out words to us like rotten pieces of apples. "Pick up that wash and get on out of here so I can get this mess cleaned up." Priscilla picked up the laundry bags, heavy and wet with wet clothes, and we stepped hurriedly out of the door. As Priscilla put the laundry bag on the wagon, we could hear Miss Breelove hushing and soothing the tears of the little pink and yellow girl. "Who were they, Polly?" "Don't worry none, baby. You gonna make another pie?" "Of course I will." "Who were they, Polly?" "Hush, don't worry none," she whispered, and the honey in her words complemented the sundown spilling on the lake. The easiest thing to do would be to build a case out of her foot. That is what she did, herself did. But to find out the truth about her dreams die, how the easiest thing to do would be to build a case out her foot. This is what she herself did. But to find out the truth of how dreams die, one should never take the word of the dreamer. The end of her lovely beginning was probably the cavity in one of her front teeth. She preferred, however, to think always of her foot. Although she was the ninth of 11 children and lived on the ridge of red Alabama clay, 7 miles from the nearest roads, and completely indifferent with which a rusty nail was met when it punched clear through her foot during her second year of life, saved Pauline Williams from total anonymity. The wound left her with a crooked, archless foot that flopped when she walked, not a limp that would have eventually twisted her spine, but a way of lifting the bad foot as though she was extracting it from the little whirlpools that threatened to pull it under. Slight as it was, the deformity explained for her many things that would have otherwise been incomprehensible. Why she alone of all children had no nickname, while there were no funny jokes or anecdotes about funny things she had done. Why no one ever remarked on her food preference. No saving of the wing or neck for her. No cooking of the peas in a separate pot without rice because she did not like rice. Why nobody teased her. Why she never felt at home anywhere in that she belonged to any place. Her general feeling of separateness and unworthiness was blamed on her foot. Restricted as a child to the cocoon of her family spinning, she cultivated quiet and private pleasures. She liked, most of all, to arrange things, to line things up in rows, jars on shelves at canning, peach pits on the step, sticks, stones, leaves, and members of her family let these arrangements be. When by some accident somebody scattered her rows, they always stopped to retrieve them for her, and she was never angry, for it gave her a chance to rearrange them again. Whatever portable plurality she found, she organized into neat lines according to the size, shape, and gradations of color. Just as she would never align a pine needle with the leaf of the cottonwood tree, she would never put the jars of tomatoes next to the green beans. During all of her 4 years of going to school, she was enchanted by numbers and depressed by words. She missed without knowing what she missed paints and crayons. Near the beginning of World War One, the Williams discovered from returning neighbors and kin the possibility of living better in another place. In shifts, lots, batches, mixed in with other families, they migrated in 6 months and four journeys to Kentucky, where there were mines and mill work. When all us left from down here home and was waiting down by the depot for the truck, it was a nightmare. June bugs were shooting everywhere. They lightened up a tree leaf, and I seen a streak of green every now and again. And that was the last time I seen a real June bug. These things up here ain't June bugs, they something else. Folks here call them fireflies. Down home they was different, but I recollect the streak of green. I recollect it well. In Kentucky, they lived in a rural town, 10 to 15 houses on a single street with water piped down to the kitchen. Ada and Fowler Williams found a 5 room frame house for their family. The yard was bounded by a once white fence against the Pauline's mother planted flowers, and within which they kept a few chickens. Some of her brothers joined the army. One sister died, and two got married, increasing the living space and giving the entire Kentucky venture a feel of luxury. The relocation was especially comfortable to Paulina, who was old enough to leave school. Miss Williams got a job cleaning and cooking for a white minister on the other side of town, and Paulina, now the oldest girl at home, took over the care of the house. She kept the fence in repair, pulling the pointed stakes erect, securing them with bits of wire, collecting eggs, swept, cooked, washed, and minded the two younger children, a pair of twins called Chicken and Pie, who were still in school. She was not only good at housekeeping, she enjoyed it. After her parents left for work and the other children were at school or in mines, the house was quiet. The stillness, the isolation, both calm and energized her. She could arrange and clean without interruption until 2 o'clock when Chicken and Pie came home. When the war ended and the twins were 10 years old, they too left to work. Pauline was 15, still keeping house, but with less enthusiasm. Fantasies about men in love and touchings were drawing her mind and hands away from her work. Changes in weather began to affect her, as did certain sights and sounds. These feelings translated themselves to her in extreme melancholy. She thought of the death of newborn things, lonely roads, and strangers who appear out of nowhere simply to hold one's hands, woods in which the sun was always setting. In church, especially, did these dreams grow. The song caressed her, and while she tried to hold her mind on the wages of sin, her body trembled for redemption, salvation, a mysterious rebirth that would simply happen with no effort on her part. In none of her fantasies was she ever aggressive. She was usually idling by the riverbank or gathering berries in a field when someone appeared with gentle and penetrating eyes, who, with no exchange of words, understood, and before whose glance her foot straightened and her eyes dropped. Then someone had no face, no form, no voice, no odor. He was simply present in all embracing tenderness with strength and promise of rest. It did not matter that she had no idea what to do or say to presence. After the wordless knowing and the soundless touching, her dreams disintegrated. But the presence would know what to do. She had only to lay her head on his chest, and he would lead her away to sea, to the city, to the woods, forever. There was a woman named Ivory who seemed to hold her full mouth all of the sounds of Pauline's soul. Standing a little apart from the choir, Ivory sang the dark sweetness that Pauline could not name. She sang the death divine that Pauline yearned, and she sang of the stranger who knew. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn. Through the storms, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. When my way grows dear, precious Lord, linger near. When my life is almost gone, hear my cry, hear my call. Hold my hand, lest I fall. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on. Thus, it was that when the stranger, the someone, did appear out of nowhere. Pauline was grateful but not surprised. He came strutting right out of a Kentucky sun on the hottest day of the year. He came big, he came strong. He came with yellow eyes, flaring nostrils, and he came with his own music. Pauline was leaning idly on the fence, her arms resting on the crosswell between the pickets. She had just put down some biscuit dough and was cleaning the flour from under her nails. Behind her, at some distance, she heard whistling. One of these rapid, high note riffs that black boys make up as they go while sweeping, shoveling, or just walking around. A kind of city street music where laughter, bellies, anxiety, and joy is as short and straight as a blade of a pocket knife. She listened carefully to the music and let her pull her lips into a smile. The whistling got louder, and she did not turn around, for she wanted it to last. While smiling to herself and holding fast to the break in somber thoughts, she felt something tickling her foot. She laughed aloud and turned to see. The whistler, the whistler was bending down, tickling her broken foot and kissing her leg. She could not stop her laughter, not until she looked up at and she saw the Kentucky sun drenching the yellow, heavy-lipped eye of Charlie Breedlove. CJ, you hungry?